Buddy, Dan the Trading Man. Tonight, going to analyze the futures products. This is part of the futures analysis plan that you can get on FibonacciForecasting.com. If you go to the homepage, all you have to do is move over to the plans section, and then you will see the futures analysis for about $10 a month, and you're going to get levels every single morning, written analysis every single morning, and then once a week a video going over these levels. So here we are with the S&P, and we will go over the four indexes: S&P, NASDAQ, Dow Jones, Russell. Also cover the VIX. That's really the key indicator there for the indices, in my opinion. And then we're going to look at crude oil, gold, and silver. So starting with the S&P, let's go to a daily time frame here, and we can see that 4,475 and potentially 4,435 have been short setups here, full 50% shorts that have traded and have given a good reaction to a lower low from those areas. On the daily time frame, we have a 42.11.5. That is the next 50% long in the ES coming from December of 2022. There's also a full 50% long on the daily time frame of 40.68 quarter that comes from our lows of October 2022, about a year ago. So going to the hourly time frame now, we can see that there were some short setups that traded inside here for the S&P. And if we just follow these sequences lower, eventually it leads us to this 43.62, and we completed several targets there, aggressively heading lower. Taking the low of that recent move to the new low, this setup has traded multiple times. This traded 42.80 quarter to its target, and then taking the same setup to the new low is what traded today, 42.54 quarter and 42.67. We did pierce the 61.8. Technically, there could be some buyers stepping in on the potential 50% long from our lows of the day. That also, again, the lows around 42.11.5, that is a next daily 50% long setup. So we'll see here what the S&P does. Do we end up trading within a range here between 42.67, 42.47, or do we see a breakdown lower or a breakout higher? And what I would also be tracking is the full 50% short in the S&P, which as of right now is a 43.2175. If the S&P completes this long target 42.9675, there could certainly be more long setups that come into play there for the ES. And if we head lower, we could look for the retest at 42.11.5, and again, that full daily 50% long could also become tested if we continue to head lower, which is at 40.68 quarter. Moving to the NASDAQ, this one traded a next 50% short at 15,136.75, and it then had aggressive selling, and similar to the S&P, traded this low to low setup here, 14,798.5, traded really well to its target. If you take the same setup to the new low, we saw the S&P pierce the 61.8, while the NASDAQ really broke through at 61.8. So this setup has failed. And what I want to do now is look for the next 50% short from the prior setup's high to the new low. 14,826 quarter is that level, and so far there's been a decent reaction. Again, because we broke that low to low setup, we could look for the potential 50% long from our swing low of the morning. Going to the daily time frame, there is this high to high draw here that has been holding for quite some time now in the NASDAQ. This became tested back in August of 2023. It then retested here late September, early October, and we are retesting this area again, and really for the first time testing the 50% level, 14,506 quarter. If this setup were to fail, there could be a next daily 50% long that becomes tested, 13,929, and then of course we could also look for the full daily 50% long, which is at 13,273.75. So very massive long levels there in the NASDAQ if we were to head lower. Going back to this hourly time frame, again, we are on this potential daily 50% long 506 quarter. Then we have this 50% long setup of 684. We'll see if this becomes tested in the overnight session or tomorrow or sometime this week and how this reacts. And again, like the S&P, if we head higher, take out the short, complete the target, that could certainly lead to more long setups trading if we complete that target. Otherwise, do we break the short and break the long and continue the shorts lower? What I would also track in the NASDAQ is a full 50% short from the high, just like we did the S&P. That is a 14,991 half. And the VIX is going to make this a lot more clear when we go over that product as well. And so we'll get into that just after the Russell and the Dow. So the Russell, I'm tracking these 50% shorts here on the hourly time frame. The hourly short setup is a 1731.90. The real sequence hourly short is an 1802 half. Now going to the daily time frame, the Russell has been retesting this full daily 50% long several times. So this began back in May of 2022, retested again in June of 22, September, October, and then for 2023 we had March retest, May retest, and now we're retesting again. Quickly, I'm going to go to the IWM and go to the max monthly chart, and we can see that 170 is a next 50% long for IWM. The full 50% long is a 138, 139, 140, that area. So we could actually fall lower here and test this max daily 50% long setup, which is a massive level in the Russell if that were to become tested. So keep that in mind. With RTY, we could see some moves lower. Now, I want to go back to a 4-hour, and we can see that this next short of 1802 half, 4-hour time frame, could take a while to come into play. So until then, we could see if there is a low to low draw. This has failed a few times in the past. We'll draw to the new low now, and that's going to give us 1751.90 and 1732.70. So those levels could have shorts there waiting to take the Russell lower. That target would be 1632.70. So we'll see here what the Russell ends up doing, but there are some massive short setups there in the Russell. Moving to the Dow, this one, start with the daily as well. There is a full 50% long that traded 31,932. That target is still above us at 36,784. The full 50% long inside of that setup is failing. We're seeing it break below the 61.8 and get closes beneath the 61.8. So we could see a move lower in the Dow to retest 31,932. There's also even larger levels beneath us, as we can see on the chart. And then on the short side, we'll go to that hourly time frame. There's a next 50% short, 34,189. And inside of that short setup is another short of 33,974. This has completed several targets. It has been trading aggressively lower, and there is that low to low draw. 33,254 and 33,328 have traded and given a nice move so far. We'll see if we get a lower low and a target of 32,864. So I want to talk about the VIX because this really is the key indicator, it seems, at least from my perspective, of what the indices likely do next. So let's go to the daily time frame. And we can see here that there was a 50% short of 2730. And we had a target completion of 1375. This short 2730, this traded back in March of 2023. So this is from this past year where we traded this and had a great move lower to this target. That helped the indices climb higher as the VIX traded a short and headed to that target. The indices traded their longs, headed higher toward their targets. Now we have run into the next daily short setup here, taking the swing high of that move to the new swing low. 2090 is that level. So I'm going to drop to an hourly time frame. So let's do a 4-hour. And we can see that there was this full 50% long in the Russell that traded. Here is 1680. There's also an example of 1640. So we will rock with the 1680 1680 here. So 1680, it pierced the 61.8. It then had a nice rally toward a new high. Then it retested 1680, and then from there it's had this nice move higher toward its target of 2205. 2090 again is that next daily short that has become tested, and we are seeing some selling come in as of now. 1885 is a full inside 50% long. So this is a key area right here in the VIX. The VIX tends to lead the way, whether it heads higher or breaks down. So this right here is a key area, 1885, 1890 through 19. The VIX could test this. If this gets buyers and the VIX heads higher, completes 2205, breaks above 2275, heading toward 23, that's going to lead the indices to continue to hold their shorts and head lower. If the VIX breaks below 18, now we have room to head lower into 1680. That would be a retest. And if this full daily long setup failed, breaking below 1595, preferably getting continuation through that, that could lead the VIX lower and again the indices higher. So the VIX holding long setups heading higher leads to the indices holding short setups heading lower. And if the VIX breaks its longs, trade shorts, heads lower, the indices likely break their shorts, trade more longs, head higher. So it's inverse relationship. And these levels here are really key in the VIX to see what the VIX is likely going to do, because based on that, we can assess the indices and put on the right trades with the proper risk management and then play it as it goes. So as of right now, what I'm seeing is we traded 2090, this daily short. So that means that the indices are likely trading or retesting daily longs because the VIX is trading a daily short. And that's what we had. We talked about the Dow that is currently breaking that daily 50% long, so I don't have it drawn, but it could potentially reverse that. The Russell is retesting that full daily 50% long, 1704.70. You got the NASDAQ inside the high to high draw, testing that 50% level, 506 quarter. And we have the S&P testing the next daily 50% long, 4211 half. And again, the S&P has a next daily 50% long as the VIX has a next daily 50% short. So not really a coincidence, right? It's running with these patterns. It's what it does. So we'll see here what the VIX decides to do from here. Now, crude oil, this one traded. Let's go to the daily and talk about that first. So there is a daily 50% short here, 93.66, and there is a full daily short of 97.07. Technically, they're both full shorts. One comes from the absolute high, 130 half. The other comes from the high of June 2022. It's 123.68. And that is currently what is holding, 93.66. We could be tracking a full daily 50% long from our lows. That is a 79.33. As of right now, we can see 93.66 is holding pretty well, heading toward that full daily long 79.33. And 88.27 is this inside 50% short here that is still holding. And we have traded now this opposing 50% long of 85.68. So if we can break below 84.69, there could be some more short setups in oil that take that one lower toward its target of 78.31, and again that full daily 50% long 79.33. If 85.68 holds, we could see a retest of 88.27. If we break above 90, we could head toward that long target that could lead to more long setups being traded, and eventually we could retest 93.66. And we could even head higher than that to trade the full daily short, 97.07. Moving to the metals, gold and silver. Gold had a full short that has failed. So now I'm eyeing up this full 50% long, 1916.40, and we'll see how aggressive gold stays. There's certainly a more aggressive sequence here, but just looking at it from a conservative standpoint, that full daily long will eventually likely come into play. And as of right now, it's 1916.40. So we'll see when that occurs and then how it reacts when it becomes tested. If that long setup does end up failing, we would simply probably retest 1851.90, which is a full daily 50% long. And then we have silver, which we will pop out to a daily chart for. And this one traded a full daily short 23.64 after retesting a daily 50% long 21.09. So this traded back in really the beginning of the year in 2023. and had a great rally toward its target 26.52. Never quite completed. The high was 26.43.5. We ended up being pretty choppy, but then eventually retested 21.09, and we have rallied into again that full daily short 23.64. Moving to the hourly time frame, there's a full 50% long 22.36.5. We'll see if this becomes tested and how it reacts. Similar to gold, if this setup fails, we likely just head lower to retest that full daily long. If this setup holds, we have targets above here, 24.59.5. That would lead to the break of the full short and could lead to more longs to take us higher and likely complete that daily setup target. So that's all I got this evening. Any questions, comments, feel free to let me know. This will be on the public YouTube, and then videos after this for the futures analysis will be private. Again, you can get these by joining the futures analysis plan on FibonacciForecasting.com. Only $10 per month, and you're going to get analysis every single day, written analysis and thinkorswim levels like you see right here in all the different products that we trade in the trade room, and then we'll have a video every week. So that's all I got here. Take care. Any questions, comments, let me know.